My name again, as you know, is Serge Eric Yakeu. I'm from Cameroon. Cameroon is the middle of this Africa. And then actually I'm working as a credentialed evaluator, mostly as a freelance. But also I'm also working as a visiting professor with a number of universities. But this time I'm with University of Montreal in Canada. I used to teach evaluation also in Algeria, in Constantine University. So also I'm serving most of the time as a mentor for many projects like with Research for Common Grounds in the United States. Last one of one student. And then most of my time is to share between, let's say, ground evaluations at the community level. Also, most of the time with thematic evaluation at upper level, let's say with donors, bilateral companies, and also with foreign affairs like USAID, Global Affairs Canada, and then majority with the UN agency. So I think the work can said about how I'm doing. But coming back, I'm also a member of EvalIndigenous networks. Let's see, we are kind of founder because we were part of the initiative 4 years ago in Kathmandu, in Nepal. And then we moved in with, let's say, with the first one on our project 2 years ago. Let's say mostly 1 year ago, because it was actually in Bishkek in Kyrgyzstan, where we shaped the form of EvalIndigenous. But since then, now more than a year, we are moving in slowly. So, and then beside that, I'm also a member of many other non-voluntary organizations like the international, the IDS. I think you know the IDS is International Development Evaluation Associations. I used to be a former president of African Evaluation Associations. And then I'm now like kind of a research person for Freya, and also member of Cameroon National Evaluation Association, namely CADEA. So let's see briefly what I can say about what I'm doing, and then where and how I'm tied to evaluations. 2 months ago, I facilitated a EVAD cafe in Cameroon with about 30 participants. It was an opportunity to meet with executive board member of CADEA to aware them and call them to, let's say, participate and provide some kind of filling the form. Because till now, the executive member didn't do it yet. And then sometimes it's very hard. I don't know why, but I think it's coming soon because most of our persons don't have the same dynamic. But beside that, it was an opportunity for me to talk with emerging evaluators and also other evaluation committee members of CADEA, where they attend the EVAD Cafe. And then it was an opportunity to capacitate and their skill and my skill, you know. A workshop is kind of a peer-to-peer learning. You learn from why people you are meeting. So, but we got touch base about how practically evaluation being conducted in Cameroon. But today we are still waiting because it looked like there was kind of scratch, but we are waiting that, we're expecting that very soon by December when we get the General Assembly, will be another opportunity to talk with them again and aware them that they should at least fill the form for our first project. It's not yet done today. So this simply I can say with regard to EvalIndigenous engagement or let's say support for the countries, for the developers. So this is kind of, let's say, formal one, but the informal one is what we are doing on back, you know, with the context of the evaluation in Cameroon. So this is simply where we are, where I am. Let's say simply like that. The figure is very different in Cameroon. That's another good question because I was part of many indigenous evaluation in Cameroon. The last one, let's say one of the best one was 8 years ago because there were so many. You know, the way indigenous people in Cameroon are said is not the same like in Canada or in New Zealand, as I heard from my colleague from New Zealand or in US. having Indian people in the camp. No. In Cameroon, indigenous people are living somehow and they're embraced with other people. You know, instead of a group originally named, they are not called indigenous, but they are named, let's say, pygmy groups. You know, a pygmy group, let's say they're living mostly in the dark forest. These group are really special one. And then, but if in terms of Indian, to look at the global definition of the term, it means like the local people, you know, we have been there for many times. So let's say around the countries from the north to the south, because in the north, you have a Muslim people in the north. Okay. They used to be Muslim for many decades, many centuries. South, we have Bantu people. Bantu people are indigenous for many centuries now. So let's say in the design, most of the time they are participating in the conception, the diagnostic of the project or initiative before going to the evaluation. Most of the time they are called to give their voice into the priority in terms of selecting the key priority for their communities. And then during the implementation of the evaluation itself, they're invited to either send a representative, you know, into a meeting or to be speak on the behalf of the communities they are leading. And then also sometimes the backstopping, you know, the backstopper mechanism, you know, to share the findings. Some projects do share finding with Indian people, others don't share, depending to the scale of the project being evaluated. Like for instance, almost all community evaluation projects should be shared. The findings should be shared with all participants, including the Indian people. But when it comes to the thematic or strategic evaluations, most of the time where the objective to need to get their insight in terms of facilitations. Sometimes the finding is to you to design maybe new policy, you know, to be implemented like education and health policy. But for all community development, let's say community-based interventions, they involve in the stage from the design, mostly, and then implementation also to the share, the last aspect, you know. Evaluation is about sharing, it's about learning and accountability. So most of the time their voice is called very well. Like this year was election here in Cameroon. If some community do not see the feedback for the government, they will not give their voice or participate into the election, for instance. Most of the time outside are coming, you know, let's say we have two figures. Some basic projects, you know, are being assessed by the people with their representative. But if the project is funded by the outsider, let's say by the foreign donor, let's take an example, a UN project, let's say UN agency project like for FAO or another international organization, most of the time they prefer to have international experts to come to serve as facilitators. But national projects, sometimes they call only indigenous people from the area who have the knowledge and the background to go and talk with those people. So they figure the difference, let's say drastically, depending from which project we have. If you have a humanitarian project, like a project deal with Calibre missions, Calibre, CBM, all those organizations, they want everything to be done by community. And then we have a case mostly with, Caritas organizations, is a church-based organizations. Most of the time, they want to deal only with indigenous people, with local people where they're implementing some basic services for them. So it depends very so. Most of the time, I've been, as a Cameroonian, I've been, let's say, international expert into my own country. But I didn't say it was not international as in terms of nationality. It was in terms of, international knowledge. Having a huge background for Africa perspective or other European perspective to bring in and then share lesson with the people. So it depends most of the times. Yeah, that's a good question. Like in many countries, evaluation remain kind of policy, kind of, let's say, arbitrary mechanism. Most times, let's say, community people, they like it. Whatever, they like it a lot, but most of the times only representative of government are fearing evaluations because those groups look at the evaluation like kind of, oh my God, this is going to ask us what have been done with our money, what we are doing with the project, are we fulfilled, are we complete, are we follow the roadmap set initially. But people, indigenous people themselves, they love evaluation. They say, okay, whatever what you're doing, we are going to access it and see you're doing a good thing tomorrow. Coming in with the evaluation of the project. Let's say the indigenous are those people who are very happy with the evaluation rather than those who have implemented, well, those that rather than the implementers or maybe the government supporters. I may say yes and no. Yes, depending on the type of the project. If the project is conventional project settled by FAO, they may impose you, let's say, the classical, I may say classical method rather than say Western method, because it's a classical approach in the evaluations. And then people will say Western method of evaluations. You know, this kind of sharing, because most of the time people think evaluation is deeply done in the north than in the south. But if you go to the field, it's not true. The issue is in the north, system mechanism are already put in place, which are just following the institutional mechanism set up by the government. And then, like in Canada with the indigenous people, you know, I hope I'm going to get this contract with, to work with indigenous community in Canada in 3 regions. We are still working on it. So, you know, the government already set up all the program at the beginning and the collaborations. And then all the assessment just going through. You people know what have been said. I don't know the figure with New Zealand. Like in Cameroon, for instance, as I said, then this means that people think we are really classical. Classical is what we call the dark criteria in evaluation. You know the dark criteria. I mean the criteria for the development assistance criteria, call it dark criteria in evaluation. I think you know, you are familiar with it and why. That criteria, or using the UN norm, you have UN norm as standard and method or model in evaluation. So depending now to come back to the question, if the project it have been funded by those institutions, they have to follow their mechanism to do evaluation. If the project is funded by the humanitarian organization, they will follow local knowledge and local context to evaluation. So they differ a lot. Like doing evaluation I did in the north. The north looked like the most indigenous place in Cameroon because they are less developed. You know, in the north as Muslim, they are less developed. So when you are going there, you have to follow the Muslim rule to set up your methodology, maybe to do a focus group with the women. Most of the time, you need a female to, let's say, female to facilitate the. You want to the leader, you should come at that time of the prayer time, you know. You should make yourself before you respect their own culture. You bring to talk with them. Otherwise, they will not listen to you. You know, this kind of what we call a contextual approach in evaluations. So if they follow the contextual approach, you know, and also the cultural setting already developed depending to the community. Let me take the example about community-based development of the Ministry of Planning. It's about supporting indigenous community to set up their community development plan and monitor it themselves. We are using the PRA method. I think you know the PRA method, the Rapid Rural Appraisal method. We use it with the people in the center and in the east to look at how many community plans are being able to develop and how many projects are being really implemented. So these projects are being well appreciated by those communities because you know the management of those interventions is done by themselves. Like the monitoring of the school being built in the community is done by the people of the community. You know, leaders have been selected among themselves to follow them the construction of the school, or maybe the building of the dam for water. You know, leaders that have been selected in the community, and then they have been the one who own the project. That was one of the best examples I can share because the other example have been done with UN project, and you know most of UN evaluation they didn't come back to the community to restitute, to you know, to debrief or to share learning with the people. Most of the time they didn't come back.